Bonjour, Kinamagi and Nene Ireland edition of Kaz, and welcome to this episode of the My Math Network. Today's episode, Chapter 12, Lesson 5, Classify Quadrilaterals. All right, we'll begin by looking at our previous session where we were classifying triangles. On this one, we looked at how many sides were congruent, 0, and a triangle with 0 congruent sides is scalene. Vocabulary check, equilateral triangle has 3 congruent sides. An acute triangle is a triangle with 3 angles, each less than 90. And obtuse has 1 that's greater than 90. Looking at this, there are 2 congruent sides, 1 obtuse angle, 2 acute angles. So you're listing all the attributes. And it's isosceles because it has 2 congruent sides, and acute because they're all acute. And you could talk about this. And which one was obtuse? The one with greater than 90. Looking at the assignment today, we're going to classify quadrilaterals. So you're going to describe the attributes, which are the details about each one, and then you'll classify it. And then you'll look right here for number 3. Name all the quadrilaterals have the given attributes, and then we have some vocabulary at the end, which is going to be roughly based off of information on 929. The essential question in Chapter 12 is, how does geometry help me solve problems in everyday life? Here's our essential question. Let's look at the part that's not in your text. What are the attributes of a quadrilateral? Well, things we're going to need to look at is 1, all quadrilaterals have 4 sides and they are connected. Now, there are a variety of other attributes that apply to certain quadrilaterals, such as opposite sides congruent or opposite sides parallel. And we'll talk about those as we go into the lesson. Some example objects: a rectangle might be the door frame or a smart board. A parallelogram, that means both opposite sides are congruent and parallel. A rhombus means it's a parallelogram with 4 sides congruent. Could be a poster. A square, an example of a square could be a window, and the front end of a stapler could be an example of a trapezoid. Draw real-world examples of quadrilaterals that can be found using the descriptions below. And I'm going to bring this up so you know my penmanship skills. A trapezoid: 1 pair of parallel sides and opposite sides being congruent. Opposite sides parallel, opposite sides congruent, 4 right angles. Could be a rectangle. It also could be a square if those sides all happen to be congruent. All right, let's look at page 929. The expectation is that you will fill this in as you go. That provides you an artifact. When I'm ready to move on, I will give you a moment's notice or a couple seconds heads up. All right, so I'm going to, because of the nature of this image, I'm going to give you the answers, but then talk about them. You should fill them in as we go. All right, starting up in the upper left, trapezoid, a quadrilateral with exactly 1 pair of opposite sides are parallel. You can see that these 2 are parallel. These 2 are definitely not. They're eventually going to intersect. Just put a 1 right there. Coming over, the quadrilateral is any 4-sided figure. We'll come down and we have a parallelogram right here. Quadrilateral with opposite sides congruent and parallel. A rectangle would qualify, But notice this parallelogram is not a rectangle, but it is a parallelogram. Next up, we have below it a rhombus. It's a parallelogram with 4 sides congruent. So those opposite sides are congruent and parallel. As you see here, so all 4 of them are congruent. So a rhombus is a parallelogram, and a parallelogram could be a rhombus, but isn't automatically. Now let's cut all the way across here. The opposite side of rectangle. It's a parallelogram with 4 right angles. So these two and these two are parallel and congruent and has 4 right angles. Now a square is a special type of parallelogram or rectangle where all 4 sides are congruent and it has 4 right angles. So a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle isn't automatically a square. All right, go ahead and write those in. I'll give you a few seconds to finish that up. All right, example basic continues on. At the bottom of the page, a square has all the attributes of a rectangle and if you said parallelogram, you are right. Oh, and a rhombus too. Basically, it's all of these things except a trapezoid. It is a parallelogram, a rhombus, a rectangle, but not a trapezoid because a trapezoid only has 1 pair of parallel sides. Let's go ahead and write in the word rhombus. And I'll move forward here. Top of the next page. One side of the Realia building in Madrid is shown at the right. Describe the attributes. The quadrilateral has opposite sides that are in what? Congruent and parallel. So if it is what do you think? A parallelogram. Ding, 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 ding. Go ahead and write that in. Maybe a few more seconds to put that in. Let's go forward here. On the guided practice, go ahead and pause the video, fill this out, and then unpause the video to see how you did. All right, welcome back. Let's see how you did. Congruent. Opposite sides of the quadrilateral are congruent, so this side and this side, and then this one and this one, and parallel because they're 90-degree angles. So this is a rectangle. Let's look at the next one. Same thing. We're looking at a repeating quadrilateral. Go ahead, pause the video, unpause when you're ready. All right, welcome back. Let's see how you did. 4 congruent sides. Opposite sides are parallel. So it's a rhombus. And you can see there's a lot of rhombus. I mean, what's the plural of rhombus here? I need an English teacher. Rhombi? Rhombus? I guess I have to put on the other hat. But each of these, because they're the same length and parallel, it's a rhombus. All right. Let's talk math. Why is a square a special kind of rectangle? Well, it has all the attributes of a rectangle except, well, really in addition, all 4 opposite sides are congruent. All right, let's practice a few more. Describe the attributes of each quadrilateral, then tell us what kind of quadrilateral it is. Pause the video, do it, unpause to see how you did. You may pause the video now. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. Their opposite sides are congruent and parallel, so this is a parallelogram. All of these sides are congruent, so it is a rhombus. Opposite sides are parallel. And if you get stuck, look at the language. It's on 929. You can take those definitions to really apply to these images. All right, number 5, circle the quadrilaterals that all have the attributes of a parallelogram, and then the ones that have the attributes of a rhombus. Go ahead, pause the video, do that, and unpause the video when you're ready. Let me pause the video now. Welcome back. We have a rectangle, a rhombus, and a square are all parallelograms, but not a trapezoid. And the ones that have the attributes of a rhombus, just a square, because all 4 sides are congruent in a square and parallel. So a square is a rhombus, but a rhombus isn't automatically a square. All right, let's go forward a little bit. State whether the following statements are true or false. All parallelograms have opposite sides congruent and parallel. Since rectangles are parallelograms, all rectangles have opposite sides congruent and parallel. Pause the video. If it's true, just write true. If it's false, tell me why. Let me pause the video now. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. It's true. All right, number 8, same thing. All squares have 4 congruent sides. Since rectangles are squares, all rectangles have 4 congruent sides. Remember, if it's false, so tell me why. You may pause the video now. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. False. Rectangles don't have to have 4 congruent sides. Squares do. And one last one. Many aircraft display the shape of the American flag is shown below to indicate motion. What is this quadrilateral? Go ahead and pause the video and unpause when you're ready. Welcome back. It's a parallelogram. All right, if this has been easy for you, here's your assignment. Remember to use the definitions that are on 929 to identify these 2. Then answer number 3. Use 929 to help you answer number 4, 5, and 6. You have probably 9, 10, 11 too. Vocabulary and definitions are very important today. If you're in class, you'll do the paper copy located on pages 933 and 934 and submit it. If you're at home, you're going to fill in the Google form. If you have any questions, reach out to me at mireland@psychchipschool.net. Have a minute, Gichigat. Meanwhile, I'm up here.